Well, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me for Pilates All Levels. My name is Audra, and today we're going to be using a ball. If you're at home and you don't have one, that's okay. You can use a pillow or just, say no to the prop. That's fine too. Always, always, always feel free to modify. And we're going to get started on our back, knees bent, feet flat. You have the option of bringing the pillow in between your knees or not. And first, we're just going to come into our breath. So big inhale in through your nose. And exhale through your mouth. And see what story your body is telling you today. So if you are breathing up into your neck and shoulders, your body might be telling you that it's a little like on edge. In which case, think about lowering your diaphragm on your inhale and then exhaling even slower, as if you're trying to blow up a balloon to start getting your parasympathetic nervous system on. If you're already in a nice, relaxed breath, see if you can really expand it three-dimensionally. If there's any part of your back that doesn't want to accept expansion when you breathe, see if you can allow that part to expand a little bit more fully without force, just an invitation. Two more. Good. And then we can bring our hands to our hip bones. And just on your exhale, let yourself come into your imprint and then rock back into your neutral. Just a few more like this. Lengthening through your hip bones and rock back. Couple more here. Just letting your back relax, making sure that you're not gripping through like your pelvic floor or your glutes. A little activation is great, but we don't necessarily need to clench. Just getting a little bit of movement through our lumbar spine. Now you can bring your feet a little closer to you or closer to each other. We're bringing our arms out to the side. Think about the rib cage sliding down and just let your knees start to go to one side. So pause before you arch to get there, and then exhale, dragging your ribs back. Other side. So think about lengthening through the side of the hip rather than twisting deeply, right? So yes, we're moving our knees, and yes, we are rotating. However, I would rather you not get all of your rotation from your lumbar spine. We want our whole spine to start joining the party, right? Couple more. And you can sneak a little farther each time if it feels appropriate. Oh, I feel my abs from last night. That's fun. Last one, each side. And now we're going to bring our knees all the way to the first side, roll onto your side. So if you're like, oh, this is not comfortable for my neck, you can always bring your hand, or you can always use the ball or pillow. We're just reaching our hand forward, shoulder blade draws down and back, and then open your collarbones to the sky, and then come back. And a couple more. Good. Allowing your rib cage to move freely and with ease. One more like this. And then we get to roll to the other side. So once again, you can always use your prop or your hand to support your head, reach it forward and then back. And just start to notice if one side has a different amount of movement than your other side. And if you have a side that's restricted, instead of fighting it, right? Instead of being like, go into your range, just hold, deep breath, slow exhale. And see if that slow exhale can help your nervous system calm down enough to feel safe to get you into that placement. 2. Last one, come back to center. Now go ahead and interlace your hands behind your head, spiraling your elbows forward, shoulder blades draw down your back. Exhale, curl your collarbones forward. Good. And then slowly lengthen all the way down. And then exhale, sink the ribs, armpits come forward. And back down. Just starting the movement, notice if you immediately go into a posterior tilt as soon as you lift, right? Once we get to a certain point, you kind of have to in order to get more height. But let's try to start by only lifting the top part. Good. Last one like this. Hold, bring your fingertips forward, squeeze the prop, press them, and then lift your hands, interlace them behind your head and hold. Feel where your shoulder blades are. Now, instead of a big rotation, all we're going to do is hover one shoulder blade off the ground on your exhale, tiny hover, and then back to center, tiny hover, and center. Few more. Trying to see if it's your arm trying to hover the shoulder blade or your ribs. So if it's your elbow moving to get that shoulder blade off the ground, see if you can get the movement from the rib cage. Honestly, I find this tiny movement way harder than a big one, right? Yeah. Last one like this. Now we get to hold and then exhale, curl your collarbones forward. Yep, so rotate just a tiny bit more. Yeah. Yeah, and then come back, float that shoulder blade off the ground, and then curl. Rotating. Nope, opposite arm. Yeah, good. So hover first, then rotate. Yeah, hover first, then rotate. Anybody else trembling? Yeah. You got it? Yeah. One more each side. Hover, then rotate. Hover, then rotate, and come all the way down. Yeah, now slide one hand to your side. You can keep your head basically down or you can lift it up. We're going to try to keep the hips still. And we're just sliding the hand down towards our foot as if you want to reach your television remote, but you don't want to like crush the little puppy or kitten that's curled up next to you. You don't want to disturb their sleep. And then back to center. So a little side bend and then lengthen back to center. And that's the exciting part, is the center, because it's showing you how to stack your spine. One more. Stack the spine. Good. Now just come back to center, Nancy. There. Keep center. We're just rotating So now look at the hand. Yep, and back. Rotate to look at the hand. Good. So we're trying to make sure that the spine is nice and stacked, and we're just rotating around. 2. Last one. And then other side. So you can bring your head down in between, slide that hand down. You can lift or keep your head down. We're trying to keep the hips relatively still as we slide the hand and then restack. So we slide and then restack. Yay. I liked the nice sigh of, oh. Mm-hmm. 2. It was very like, a vino. Last one. And then we keep the spine stacked, rotate to look at the hand. And then back. Few more. Two. Last one. And come all the way down. Nice job. Sway your knees a little to one side and then the other side. One more each direction. Come back to center. Now just imprint your spine if that helps you find your bridge. Press down into your big toe mound, peel your spine up as if you're peeling a sticker off the wall. And then melt and roll all the way down. And then curl, press, pressing down into your hands, pressing down into your feet, and then melt. Now, as you come up into your bridge, making sure that we're lengthening through the fronts of our hips, making sure that your weight isn't on your neck and that it's not as if you're lifting from your armpits, right? We want to sink the sternum down, belly button down, and then melt, relaxing the glutes on the way. 2 more. Last one. And come all the way down. Go ahead and grab your prop. So if you're at home and you don't have a ball, you can always just press your hand into your thigh here, but if you do have the ball, we're going to use it to get our hands and legs closer to each other. So think about kind of hugging your armpits out of your ears, float one leg to tabletop. From your lats and serratus, you're going to push the heel of your hand into the ball. Everybody feel that muscular activation? If not, on your exhale, draw your belly button toward your spine as well. Ribs down. Yep, push both hands and the knee together. Yeah, and then other side. So if you're just pushing from the hands and the knee without engaging the core, you're probably going to feel more armpit and hip flexor. So if that's what you feel on your exhale, draw your ribs towards your belly button and your belly button towards your spine. And again, and in fact, if you are already engaging, see how it feels if you don't, and then engage. Does it feel different? Yeah. Honestly, that's why we say that Pilates doesn't necessarily get easier, but it gets better, right? Yeah. Now, if this feels good, stick with this. If you'd like to up level it, you can always bring both legs to tabletop, squeezing the inner thighs together as if you're trying to pop a balloon, and then push one foot away from you, fold it in, other side. If the heel of your hand is starting to get fatigued, you can always make a little blade hand and try to press in with that. You might just have to change your shoulder position a little. Couple more. One more each side. Now, we're going to try something fun. Everybody ready? Come into your chest lift. And keeping this pressure, we're going to roll onto our side and then back and then other side. Yeah, just see how far you can go before you lose it, right? Yeah. Two. Or it's just as hard as it should be. With scoliosis, it's pretty interesting because on one side, I'm like, yeah, I got this. And on my other side, it's like, what are you doing? You know. Last one each side. And then hug your knees in towards your chest. Yeah. Now, we're going to bring the prop to our ankles or our shins. Interlace your hands behind your head. Come back into your chest lift. Now, imagine pushing your feet into a wall so the back line of your legs kicks on. Yeah, and you can point or flex. We're gonna sneak our legs a few inches away from us and then fold them in. Yeah. And again, now depending on the prop, right? If you have a ball and it's really inflated, it's probably going to turn into like the Temple of Doom, like boulder, right? If it's pretty flat, that's okay. We're just gonna sneak it a little bit away and back. Trying not to let it roll towards us, right? So I don't care if you straighten your legs. In fact, sometimes if we keep our knees bent, it's more core work because as soon as we straighten our legs, right, our quads and hip flexors are maybe taking more of the work, right? So go to your end range where you can fully stabilize from your center. Couple more. And two. Last one. And hug your knees in towards your chest. Nice job. They're no joke, are they? Yeah. So go ahead, extend one leg, other foot down, slide the ball to the side. Now, just imprint your spine and see if you were able to do it without your knee having to bend. If you're like, I can't get my spine down to the ground with my leg extended, no problem. Bend your knee a little and see if that helps. Right. Two more. And then slide that foot in, other side. Just a couple more. If you need to bend the knee, it's okay. Good. Now extend both feet and try, right? So maybe with one foot extended, it's easy. And then with both feet extended, it's harder. That's okay. Just be aware, right? Two. If you need to bend your knees a baby bit, fraction of an inch, that's fine. Now bring your arms to the sky. Arm bones relax down. Open your armpits so your hands come down. Reach them forward as you lift your collarbones and roll towards your feet. Yeah. Yeah. Now, hands can come onto your ankles or shins. And we're going to round our back. And then we're going to think about unfurling our hips so we can flatten through our back. Now, if you feel tension in a specific place, maybe that's where you're actually trying to extend from, right? So it's less of an extension through any particular joint. It's more just unwinding the hips, lengthening through the crown of the head. Nod your chin, Stephanie. And then lift your ears more. Yeah. And then round your back. So we're just trying to round and flatten. Yeah. So to me, it looks like you're trying to pull from your neck to get your flat back. So hands back some, bend your knees slightly, round your back more. Yeah, and then just unwind your hips. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. 2 more. Yeah, so if you have tight hamstrings, maybe this is hard. If your hip flexors tend to dominate, it could also be hard, right? Last one. Good. Now reach the arms forward, shoulder blades draw down, lift your ribs as if somebody you like is coming up behind you and hugging you, and roll all the way down. And allow the arms to come overhead. And then we curl, exhale, and roll forward. Good. Once again, lifting the ribs. So imagine that there is, I don't know, a barrel. We're going to go barrel. That when you come up, you're trying to come up and over it. It's a small barrel. It's like a root beer barrel, right? Or a St. Bernard barrel, right? Yeah. 2 more. Good. And of course, with roll-ups, if that doesn't feel great, you can always bend your knees. You can always put a prop behind you. You can always use your leg. Last one like this. And come all the way up. Now, you can either stay like this or bring the ball behind you for a little support. Legs are going to stay straight unless you need them bent. Roll back until you touch the ball if you're using it, or if you're not, just until you're behind your tailbone. Good. Now, as we lift our arms, it's less about the arms lifting and more about the shoulder blades scooping and the abs kicking on. Right. Temper your range this far. Yeah, good. They are. Good. Think about the lower trapezius and the serratus making your shoulder blades kind of smile. And that's why those arms are moving. Last one. And dive forward. And then restack. Good. Now, I'll show with the ball. Doesn't matter. You can always stick with no ball. We're going to roll back again. Good. Shoulders melt out of the ears. And we're going to sweep one arm to the side and then flip the palm up like a little serving tray. And then other side, start it behind and then flip it up. So we are externally rotating from our upper arm bone. So if you tend to be pretty internally rotated and you notice that you're having trouble getting your hand up, you could be moving from your elbow. So think about your upper arm bone leading the charge. Good. If you need to do this here and just focus on the shoulder work, that's fine. With the abs, it's just a little added bonus. Yeah. Good. Go ahead, curl forward and reach over your legs. Now we're going to come back up, bend the knees, slide the prop back, curl back until we can slowly come and gently come into this nice supported position where the prop is behind our thoracic spine. We're going to get a nice upper back extension here, but I don't necessarily only want upper back extension. We're getting full spine with a focus on upper back extension. It's okay. Yeah, and then curl forward. So think about the rib flare as the diaphragm kind of being lifted, right? So on the way down, we want to, for this, right, we're keeping our abs engaged, we're keeping our ribs down, but then when we get to a certain point, if we're forcing our ribs down, we're bringing excessive tension into our body, and we'll have to steal the movement from other places, right? So if I'm forcing my ribs down, my neck is going to have to do more work. So past that certain point, yeah, let your ribs flare. Breathe into that expanse. And then sink them down and curl forward. That was a great question, yeah. Good, yeah. So a lot of times, the rib flare tends to come from us not fully like expanding and contracting our diaphragm when we breathe, and we kind of like brace through the ribs. Yeah, that's a lot of people's things. Yeah. And so being able to control that is awesome, but also, you know, the rules shouldn't be so hard and fast, right? Like I've heard, oh, you should never let your arms get past your ears, but sometimes we need to be able to reach for something, right? So you know, yeah, what you're doing is great. Good. And we're just trying to mobilize the spine with a little bit of core engagement. Good. Now on this one, hold it up. We're not going to rotate to a million. We are just going to let one rib sink as one rib lifts, and then get a little extension in this position, right? As long as it feels good and isn't contraindicated, right? Just a couple more. 2. Last one. And then we get to do the other side. And the reason we're focusing on thoracic extension is just because most of the time we tend to try to get all of our extension through our lumbar and our cervical. And most of us throughout our day are like on our phone or on the computer. And so we're often in kind of a rounded position. 2 more. Last one, come back to center. Reach your hands forward as you come all the way up. Good. So you can sit crisscross applesauce, or you can sit with your legs extended. I'm going to sit crisscross applesauce today. Now, take your prop, and we're going to relax over it for a second. And we're just going to breathe into our mid-back, our sides, our lower back. So we're allowing our diaphragm to kind of settle, but without force, okay? So what I'm not looking for is you like forcing your ribs together, right? We are just letting them come together because of our position. And because of our position, we're more able to direct our spine. Now, if, for example, you have scoliosis, there's going to be a concave side and a convex side. And that concave side might have trouble expanding. So that's the side that I would encourage breath into, right? So if you have a place of your spine that doesn't love to move, that's where I'd like you to focus. One more. And then come all the way up. We're just going to hold our prop if it feels good, and just rotate to one side. See where you go. And then come back, other side. Now, If you notice that your ribs are sliding to get you there, right? If you feel that like heaviness and lightness from side to side, see if you can keep both sit bones as evenly weighted as possible. Don't fight your range. Okay. Once again, this is very much a gentle good. Last one each side. Nice job. We're coming onto all fours. So go ahead and bring your hands to the ground. And for one, we're gonna Halloween cat this one. So push the floor away, let your whole back round. And then opposite direction. And just see where your body wants to move from, right? Let's do one more. Most of us tend to really round through our upper back here, but I'd like you to try to get a little bit of lower back as well. And then the other way, most people tend to only want to move through the lower back. So I'd encourage a little bit of upper back. One more each side or each direction. Now we're going to find a little bit of articulation. So curl your tailbone under, lift your hip bones, lift your ribs, push the floor away, looking down at your knees. Unwind your hips. And then curl your tailbone. Lift your hip bones, lift your belly button, lift your ribs. Couple more. Good. See if you can think of your tail feathers, your hip bones, your lower back, your mid back. Last one. And then we just get to reverse it. So as we are here, if you are like, okay, I can articulate, but I'm bringing excessive tension into my spine, then I would say, don't try quite as hard, right? I'd much rather you have some pieces that move together than you have to brace and force it. Last one. Good. And feel free to press yourself into a rest position. Hands up and over to one side, pressing your hips away, letting that armpit open. And then other side. Come back onto all fours. Slide one foot behind you. Now ignore that leg, it doesn't exist. The only leg we're going to think about is this bent leg. And we're going to actually shift our weight into the side and then push your knee down and out to come back to center. I'll show it a couple different angles. So you're kind of sinking into that hip, and then you're using that side glute to bring you back to center. That's it. Sink into it, and then use your glute to bring it back. Good. Good. Last one. Other side. And shift and press and out. And again. Good. Belly button up just a little bit. Yeah, and then use the glute to bring you back, Nancy. You're kind of rocking. So you're kind of like this. You're like, doo, 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 doo. So now push your right knee down into the ground, out to the side. Press your right knee towards Stephanie. Your right knee, only the knee. Press your hips to the mirror. Yes. Do you feel how that side glute just kicked on? Yeah, that's what I want. Good. Yeah. Yeah, better. Do you feel the difference? Good. So it's like the knee presses one way to push your hips the opposite. Yeah. Good. Now, you can absolutely stay on the ground, or you can challenge your balance by bringing a shin onto the ball. So I would say knee, but if you're on your knee, it's really wobbly. You can tuck your toes under and just slide your foot out. Yeah. And back in. Yeah. Keeping that glute nice and active. Now, if this feels good and you'd like to advance it, of course, you can press that leg through the air. And if you'd like more challenge, you can take that other foot off the ground. We have just a couple more. And of course, if you want even more work, you pull the bent knee towards you slightly as the other leg extends. And then you push it away. Yeah. Last one. And then we get to do the other side. Now each side's going to feel different, right? Yep. Yep. Absolutely. So press down and out into the ball. You can keep that toe tucked. And then you just slide the other foot out. Trying to keep your hip bones nice and even. And then if that feels good, you can push the foot through air. And then if that feels good, you can lift the other toe off the ground. And if that feels good, you can get the knee to move a little in opposition. You will have to shift more weight into your hands, because if all the weight is in the ball, it's really hard to control. Yeah. Just a couple more. And then knees down, press yourself into that rest position, move the prop out of the way, roll out your wrists. Good. We're going to do a plank. It is up to you which version you want to do. If you want to be on your hands, try to make sure you're pushing in with your pointer finger. Lift your ribs, but not in a Halloween cat shape. Slide one foot at a time out. Okay. Maybe you're on your forearms. That's also great. One long line from the crown of your head to your tailbone. Good. And maybe you bend a knee and reach it back. Few more. And two. Last one. Knees down. Round your back, press yourself into your rest position. Rolling out your wrists. Good. Now, we're going to come onto our side. And you are welcome to use the ball. Slide the hip away. Let the foot dangle. Now, what we're going to do is play with rotation a little bit. So first, let your knee point towards the ground without force. So let it kind of relax towards the ground. Good. And then paintbrush your foot up and away. So we're trying to find either anterior fibers of that glute medius or the glute minimus underneath, right? Good. Couple more. 2. Making sure that there's just a little bit of activation of muscle on this bottom side. Good. Now all we're going to do, rotate your knee forward. Push it away and back in. Few more. 5, 4. Trying to find that glute as opposed to the front pocket. Now, all we're going to do is gentle external rotation. So a lot of us want to externally rotate through our foot to get our knee up. So let the foot dangle. Think about the thigh bone and then bring it. Good. So we're using the glute to get there, trying to lengthen through the front of the hip. If you feel this muscle going, I'm trying to help, maybe bring it back in space a little bit. Keep it a little lower. 4, 3, 'Last one. Go ahead, bend your knees, smack that hip out if you need to. We're going to roll our hip bones forward, lift your feet if it's appropriate. And now we just lift the top knee, slowly lower. So think about the thigh bone like kind of screwing in the socket like a light bulb. If for any reason starting in the internal rotation doesn't work for you, you can always bring your feet down. Maybe you won't get as much rotation, that's okay. We have 4 and 3, 2 more. Trying to keep the hip bones pointing forward. Last one, bring it down and then slowly let your feet come down. Slide your thigh bone so deeply in the socket that you might rotate back slightly. Now, sink your ribs down, tuck your tailbone, pull your belly button in. And all we're going to do is drive that top knee down. Slide your top leg back even more. Even more. Even more. Now tuck. Now drive it down. Is that more exciting? You're welcome. And relax. And again, drive it down. 2 more. Last one. And then we're going to use that bottom foot to help you internally rotate a little. Keep driving it down and then back. Now, if you felt it go ding into the front pocket of the hip, you can always keep your feet down. We're thinking of that thigh bone spiraling because that inner thigh is helping. 2. Last one, bring it down, extend the leg. Now you have options here. Option 1 is head down, pressing your hand into the ground to help you lift a little bit, right? It's not so much that you're really pushing into this hand. It's just offering a little assist when needed, okay? Option 2 is you can always put the ball underneath you for that assistance, right? But we're trying to find a little oblique rather than QL. So we're sinking the rib down, maybe looking at our foot. Yeah. 3, 2, last one, hold. And then think about that leg. We're just going to lift and lower a few times. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and come on down and extend that top side. We get to do the other side. So you can always use it as a pillow. and we extend that top leg out. Now, just let gravity help that knee come in, right? We're not forcing it, it's just an allowance. And then we paintbrush it away. Think of your foot pushing more towards Stephanie. Yeah, and then your hip bone can rotate toward, yep. Good, 3. How's that feel? Good, 2. And then knee can point forward. Paintbrush and down. Good. We have 5, 4, 2 more. Now, we're going to think about that upper thigh bone spiraling slightly in the socket. Good. How's that feeling, everybody? Great? Yeah. Good. Feeling that back pocket of the hip? Yeah. Good. 3, 2. Beautiful. Now we're going to bring the legs together. We start with that internal rotation and then spiral the thigh bone in the socket. Now, I don't care if your knee gets to the sky or not. In fact, if you're getting to the sky at the expense of hip stability, maybe pause, right? If you go, oh, I got my knee to the sky, but my hips moved. Hold the knee as much there as you can, rotate your hips back, and then see where it is, and that might be your end range, right? But we're once again thinking of that thigh kind of screwing in the joint. We have 4. We have 3. 2 more. Last 1. Bring the knees down. Slide that thigh bone super, super back in the socket, so much so that maybe the hip actually rolls back even more. More. So before, our knee is at least forward, if not stacked. Our knee can't be stacked here. Slide it back behind the bottom knee. Yeah, good. And just tuck your tailbone, sink the ribs in, drive the knee straight down. And then relax. Yeah, it's like an immediate, like, yeah. Inner thigh, yeah. Now, we can keep pressing down and have that bottom foot help. Good. We have 5 and 4. 3 more. Good. How's that inner thigh feeling? Great. Yeah. Now extend that top leg out. You have those options. No ball is just a little reach, right? Maybe you push into the arm, maybe you don't. If your shoulder doesn't like this, don't do it, right? You can just be here. Maybe you use the ball. Right? Now, I like having my hand down because it guides me, but I'm not using it, right? We have 3. 2 more. Last 1. Good. We're coming onto our stomach. Move the prop out of the way. Hands can come underneath your forehead. Just shift your hips from side to side a couple of times. And then making sure your pubic bone is slightly heavier than your hip bones. Now on your exhale, just lift one leg. That's it. See what happens. And bring it down. Other side. So the things we're trying to assess as we lift the leg is our back moving to help us. Hopefully, we're keeping it low enough that it's not. The other thing we're trying to assess is our hamstring doing the work or is our glute? So think more about pushing the foot away and dragging it up the wall. And maybe you need to like bend your knee a little and keep it bent, right? One more each side. Now, shift your hips. We're going to suction cup our hands to the ground, draw our shoulders down, press into the floor, look forward. Now, we're rolling our collarbones open. Widen your hands for me a little bit more. Press down into your hands a little more, and it's okay to let your lower back move a little bit more. Yes. Now just draw your belly button up slightly. There. How does that feel? Good. Now, flip one palm so the thumb is pointing up. We're back to the shoulder blades. So I don't care if your arm moves or not. We're thinking about that shoulder blade posteriorly tipping, and maybe the arm comes along. Maybe it doesn't. That's okay. Shoulder blade tucks under, maybe the arm moves. Maybe it just kind of slides. Maybe you just imagine it lifting. And then other side. Suction cup that hand down, flip the other palm. Exhale. Few more. Once again, it's about the shoulder blade posteriorly tipping more than about the arm moving. Good. Now, if that feels good, you can do opposite arm and leg. Couple more. Bring the arms a little closer to you. Shoulder blades draw down your back. Good. And then relax. Shoulder blades draw down your back, press into your elbows. Now, maybe you don't come up this high. Maybe this doesn't feel good for you, in which case, this is fine, right? If that still doesn't feel great, this is fine. Do what your body likes. We're just drawing it down, opening the collarbones, getting a little extension, still using those abs to support your spine. Last one. Press yourselves into a rest position. Hands up and over to one side. Press your hips away. And then we get to do the other side. Come all the way to standing. You can come through downward dog if you need to. And roll all the way up. Now, first, we're going to work a little gait pattern. So bring one foot forward, but not on a tight rope. Yeah. Now, see what your body's doing, right? Is it like super rotated? Is it like hanging out? Just information, right? Now, think about that big toe mound with that back foot. You're going to push into it to shift your weight forward. Your back knee will need to bend. Notice what your back knee wants to do, right? Notice what your ankle wants to do. And then rock it back, lift your toes. And then press and press. Yeah. Now, if your hips kind of do this number a little bit, that's okay, right? That's actually kind of what they're supposed to do, right? In a gait pattern, like exercise, of course, it's going to be more dramatic. That's okay. Good. And then other side. That's it. Right? And just notice how this side feels in comparison to the other one. For example, I like to hang out in this hip, and it takes a lot of effort for me to get back to center, right? And a lot of times we don't even realize that one side is doing something vastly different than the other one, right? At least not in our daily life. When it comes to exercise, sometimes we're like, oh yeah, I feel that, right? And just notice if the hips are like boom, 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 or doing a little like doot, doot, doot. Good. 2. Last one. Now bring your feet together. Relax your arms. Think about one shoulder drawing back. And other side. Just the shoulder drawing back. Now, pull it back like a wind-up toy and drop it. Ah, a little pendulum, huh? Other side. Notice if the pendulum is from your elbow or your shoulder. Hopefully it's shoulder. Now, that swinging, now we're gonna draw one back, let both sides pendulum. Draw the other side back, let both sides pendulum. And again. Last one. This is kind of how we're supposed to be walking, not this part, right? But the pendulum. Yeah. Now go ahead, bring your feet together, like you're on a little tightrope. Feel your feet underneath you. And you can just turn your head to one side and the other side. And if you need to, of course, you can do spirit fingers, jazz hands, little like sock puppets, or just pressing your hands together. And then we get to do the other side. You guys are amazing today. I mean, you're amazing every day, but you did great today. Yeah. Couple more. Yeah. Last one, each side. Bring your feet together, flip your palms up, open your collarbones. And you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you so much for joining me. You're all amazing.